Hi everybody, welcome to our question and answer little video. The girls are coming over in a little bit and we're gonna go inside and have this question and answer series. I have some manure I really wanted to get cleaned out of my barn. We're supposed to be getting a pretty good snowstorm in a couple days and I want to get it spread before we get this snowstorm. And one of the questions I have from a guy, his name is Martin. He's from the Netherlands. He had a question about the manure spreader. So since I was doing this, I decided I would try to explain this to him the best I can, and hopefully it will help him. So this morning it was 17 below zero, and it's warmed up quite a bit, but it's still pretty chilly. I don't think it's above zero. It's not supposed to get above zero. Brenda just came out and she just has the horses for me. I have Bill and Lady. I actually swapped sides with them, but you'll see more of them on that side. And I have my manure spreader, and it is a Lancaster. It's made out of Pennsylvania. It's an Amish built spreader. They still make them brand new here. Unfortunately for you, Martin, in the Netherlands, it's difficult, as your letter spoke about getting horse-drawn machinery. Now, this is not a horse-drawn manure spreader. This is actually a tractor-drawn manure spreader. As you can see, there's no front wheels on it except for my cart, and there's no seat on it to ride, so you have to ride on the cart. This is pretty common practice around here to do it this way. So maybe in your country you could possibly, instead of trying to find a horse-drawn manure spreader, you can try to find a tractor-drawn spreader like this. Then you can make yourself up a cart and do it the same way I do it, with a cart in front. So the question that you have is about the apron, which is this chain right here. And you can see this chain right here. That does not work for you, if I understand your question right. And you think you're missing a piece for it. So that piece I'm thinking you're missing might be this gear right here. So what happens when this is in gear and we're rolling along, the tires are turning, and it moves this apparatus right here. All right, let me see if I can get a closer picture. There is a four-sided cam, and as it's hitched solid to the tire, the wheel, the axle, and so as the tire is turning, that four-sided cam is turning also. And when this lever right here is dropped into gear by this right here, that will allow this rolling, what would you call it? A rolling piece to hit that. So as that tire is turning and the cam is turning around, it will hit that roller, because that roller is right into the cam at that time. And what it does is pushes these dogs on this gear. So you got a dog there and a dog there. And so it actually pushes it. So I'm going to attempt to show you how to do it by having Brenda drive the horses ahead a little bit. But Brenda, I just want you to go ahead about 2 feet and stop. So Brenda's just going to start the horses. Okay, so I wanted her to stop just to show you how that cam works. Okay, go ahead another 2 feet. Okay, so that's how that works. Hopefully we have it on view. Okay, go ahead another 4 or 5 feet. Okay, I hope that's going to answer your question, Martin. Thank you for your question, and I won't know until I go back inside to look at the video to see if it actually worked and it's clear. But I still have 3 or 4 more loads to spread this today before the girls get here, and then I will be looking forward to going inside in the warm house to do the rest of the questioning and answering. So we'll see you in a few.
Okay, so we are inside now where it is not freezing cold, and we're ready to start. So
I didn't see what helped me today.
No, you didn't. That's accurate.
What does that make you?
Normal.
Okay.
Okay, I was inside where it was nice and warm. Someone said, I would love to hear about your early years together, you and Brenda, the struggles and overcoming them, and how your faith sustained you.
Yikes, that's a hard one to start with.
Is that with a different one?
Just to show what you guys did to us. these are all the questions that you want us to answer. Of course, we're not going to get to them all. But anyways, we'll try our best.
Maybe just a little bit, a little history.
Well, we moved here 30 years ago, and I was pregnant with Trudy, and we had Levi. So, we were just very young, and do we want to go through the whole story? Anyways, we bought this farm, and it needed a lot of work, still does. But how many cows and stuff did you bring with you? Tractor trailer loads. Or...
I remember we brought up 2 tractor trailer loads of equipment, all junk, mind you. And then we came up with, I remember we had, was it 14 horses? Because I had mares and stallions and colts.
Yeah, I think
it
so.
was 14 horses, a whole bunch of pigs, and then we had like 25 heifers. Because I was going to start milking cows right off. Then the milk inspector said our barn wasn't fit to milk cows in, so we gave up on that idea, sold the heifers when there were time to freshen, and stuck with the logging business, and shortly after bought a sawmill.
Yeah, and it was rough in the beginning because we weren't very diversified.
Well, we were still pretty diversified because we had the farm. Even though we weren't milking cows, we still had the farm, so we had
but we had a lot. You had a lot of problems with the logging business. You had a hard time selling your logs, getting somebody to truck your logs, selling your logs, and it was real feast or famine. No, not much feast, famine.
And that's and that's why we bought the sawmill too, thinking we'd have a better market for our logs. And that it was a help, but it was still tough buying our first sawmill, and yeah, it was all around tough those first quite a few years.
And our faith in God did sustain us because many times we didn't know how we were gonna get through, but He always came through, and I wouldn't trade those years for anything because we learned a lot of valuable lessons and how to trust in the Lord.
And we had a lot of help from my neighbors and a lot of help from my
Yeah.
family. They would come up and help quite a bit too.
Jim's always been real good about going and asking the neighbors for help, and then when you ask people for help, you get to be friends somehow. It's kind of strange, but it does work that way. He's pretty good about that. We got really good neighbors.
Great. Okay, so how do you balance with the horses and building up their fitness and everything? How do you balance their work and rest time?
Okay, this probably would go in with several other questions. When you have horses, you can never utilize them to their fullest unless they're in really, really good shape. So I do a lot of different things to keep them busy year round, but there's still times where they're not busy, not very much, but there's still times. And during that time, I will hitch them onto my heavy sled and just exercise them. And it takes time, yes, but I enjoy doing it. It helps, if they're young animals, it helps in the training process. And it just keeps them really like an athlete. It just keeps them really in good shape so that when I really need that animal to do a lot of work, they're in shape or pretty close to being in pretty good shape. Does that answer that?
Yes, I was also, there was a question about someone who, for example, doesn't work full-time with the horses and basically only works with the weekends. So is it possible to keep fit, trained horses if they're only working with them on the weekends?
Yeah. The answer to that is yes, if you really want to be, what's the word? Diligent on it. Because you can, even though you're not working them, just like I'd said on my driving around with the heavy sled, during the weekdays at night after your job, hitch the horses up and take them around the field or take them up the road somewhere to keep them in shape so that come weekend time when you really want to actually do work with them, they're in shape to do that work.
Yeah, but I don't know if they were asking they only have time to do it on the weekends. Is that what you took it as?
Well, if you've only got time to hitch your horse up on the weekend, you can do that, but they'll never begin to be in the shape that you would probably like to expect them to be. It just won't happen. They've got to have that near daily exercise to do a really, good job at the jobs that you want done.
And they act better when you use
Absolutely.
them every day.
If you just hitch them up once a week, you're never going to have, well, let's face it, you're never going to have the horses that I'm trying to show on my video that are worked pretty consistently, because it just makes all the difference in the world if they work consistently.
Okay, someone is interested in knowing what future plans you have for barn renovations.
I'd like to say nothing, because I've done so much this past summer on barn renovations. I'm sort of sick of it. But I have my colts that are in their stalls that they're growing out of very fast.
Yeah.
So my plan is to next summer extend my horse barn to get in 2 more straight stalls and 1 box stall. I really like my straight stalls, but to have 1 box stall available for tons of different situations, somebody's sick, somebody's lame, somebody's having a colt, all those different things, having 1 box stall would be really, really nice. So that's my plan. The outside wall of my horse barn is pretty rough shape. I still have a little bit more to do in the sawmill, and the back side, that wall is pretty bad. So a lot of stuff I really don't want to tackle next year, but the horse barn, I'm really going to have to do something, because the colts are going to, by spring, it's going to be a pretty tight fit for them getting in and out of their stalls.
Why not buy 2 mares or maybe even more to produce foals, especially now that you have 2 stallions? I think there would be a lot of people that would be very interested in buying horses raised and trained by Jim.
We can't wait to hear what you're going to say.
Well, I've done that before. When I was in my 20s and 30s, and when we moved here, was I 30? Yeah,
I think you were.
Yeah, you were 30 because you were 30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Trudy was on the way.
So in my 20s and 30s, I actually did raise a lot of colts. I had I don't know how many mares I had at one point, but I had 2 stallions, and those 2 stallions were my main team for a long, long time, and I would do everything with them. But anyways, there's when you have mares, it's hard to work them when they have foals, especially to keep them in the type of shape that I like to have my horses. And when I was doing it in the let me see, that would be when I was in 20s and 30s, that would be in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
In the 80s and 90s, the price for foals was not that great. It was not a profitable business to be in at that time. Now, with the price of horses, it does seem like it'd be very good. And more than likely, if I did start doing it, everybody lose the shirt, because I start doing it, and then the markets go bad.
Seems like we always start at the wrong time, like, well, whatever.
Yeah. But so I don't really have any desire to do that. And here's a very good saying, I think. The more horses you have, the less you use them. And I've noticed that so much over the years. When my horse herd got bigger and bigger, the less I would use them. And the poor quality horses I had, because the poor trained horses I had, because the less they were worked. I might have worked horses the same amount of time, but if I had 8 horses and I'm working all 8 of them, none of them are getting worked very hard. So if they're not worked hard, they're not really they're not in shape, they're not really trained as good. It's just something about the fact if you have, well, I think it's just a good saying, the more horses you have, the less you're going to use them. And so that's one more reason why I've been there, done that, and I don't have any desire to do that anymore. Now, I know I'm going to be asked this quite a bit, and I don't know if I've ever even have answered this. What am I going to do with my Suffolk Colts? Am I going to keep them stallions, or am I going to geld them? And I haven't even told the girls here what I've been thinking more so of lately, because I really didn't know. But the last few months, as I've been thinking about the Colts, I think I'm probably going to keep them as stallions, both as stallions. And will I keep them long term? I don't know. I may or may not. But I have no problems keeping them as stallions and working them as stallions. Like I said, I had a pair of stallions back in the 80s and 90s that were quite a pair, and they were a pair of Belgians, and I'm not concerned with using a pair of stallions together, so that's what I would do.
Well, speaking of the Colts, someone was wondering why you. Oh, well, there are several questions about them, but one was why you chose Suffolk Punch. Is it because you've owned them, or is it because they're a more rare breed? And someone also asked if you would consider offering Duke and Earl 4-stud, since they are such a rare breed, and it would be an asset to have them remain a stallion. So.
Okay, read the first two questions again.
Yeah. Why you chose Suffolk Punch? Is it because you've had them before, or they're more a rare breed?
No to both of those questions. I did not choose them because I've never had them before, or because I had them before because I've never had Suffolk Punches before, and I never had any real desire to get them. And
rare breed.
Then why?
And is it because they're a rare breed? No, I can't honestly say I did it for that reason at all. But I was looking for a pair of young horses because my horses are getting older. Buckets especially. Getting quite long in the tooth, as they say. And so I knew I needed to get some young stock. And so a friend of mine told me about these colts. And I went down and looked at them, and I liked them. They didn't thrill me in any shape or form. To tell you the honest truth, they were but nice looking colts. And the price was right. And people have asked me how much I paid, and I'm not going to tell you what I paid. But prices are tough because no matter where you go in the country, they vary so much. So, what I pay for them really has nothing. It's really none of anyone's business, to tell you the truth. But
God bless.
but you know what I mean. It's just different prices all over the country. And but in my opinion, it was a good price, even though the price of horses have gone so high lately. Even a good price is a high price compared to what it used to be. So, but since I've got them, I'm very, very happy with them. They've come along so well. Brenda just loves them to death, and
they're so sweet.
So I'm very happy with them, and without a doubt, if I had somebody that wanted to use it for stud service, I would breed mares with them. But I'm not planning on doing that too big of a scale. I don't know if there's anyone around that is set up to collect semen, to ship the semen different parts of the country. If there was, I'd consider that. But we have a lot of Amish in our area, and they have mares that they'd love to come over and get bred, I'm sure. But it'd be difficult to make actually any money in the breeding business in our area.
When you're training them, will you likely put one of the colts with one of the seasoned horses?
I have done it both ways. I am sure at some point I will do it both ways with these guys, part of the training. The little bit of driving them around the driveway that we did a couple weeks ago, they did so great. I am pretty confident I can teach them to just go together and not need to put them with the big horses. But, after a short period of time, they will all be working and mixing up and splitting them all up and working together in all different ways.
So, what do you think is the most difficult part, or one of the most difficult parts, of working with horses?
Can't think of any.
It's always easy.
No.
Always beautiful.
But
I can tell you some things he complains about all the time.
Go for it.
Like when they don't settle down.
He never complains.
He constantly is complaining about that when they don't settle down and just, they're hyper and stuff like that.
Horses, very few things impress me, but a horse will impress me. And it's just when a horse is in really top-notch shape, it's amazing the energy that they have. And because of all that energy, a lot of times they don't settle down and just walk along like an old plow horse. You know, I can get these guys and put them in the plow, in the furrow, and settle them right down. But a lot has to do with feeding and all this other stuff. There's so much to it. And so often, I think, especially when I'm logging, probably I complain more. Although I complain when I'm plowing too. I guess I'm not a perfectionist with a lot of things, but with my horses, I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. And so I want and expect them to do exactly what I want them to do. And so when they don't, I might complain a little.
So the answer to what do you do in response to your team or horse not behaving well is he complains a little. So the full question is, what do you do in response to your team or horse not behaving well? It's difficult for us starting out to know what is the best course of action for the long-term health of the work relationship.
I can sympathize with you because if you don't have a mentor or a father or somebody that you can go and ask these questions to, it's very, very difficult to figure out what to do. A little bit of back history of myself. I grew up with horses. My father was a very good teamster, and I started out with ponies, and I think when I was 14, I was able to get a pair of yearling Percheron Colts, and I got them because I was going to work for my father for the whole summer, and he decided, of course, horses were pretty cheap back then, so he decided for my labor for that summer, he'd buy a pair of Colts for me. Of course, that's what I wanted, and so I got this pair, and so I trained them, and the following year I actually sold them. But then I continued on from there. When I was in high school, I went and worked with him. He was logging with horses at the time, and I worked with him and learned from him what to do with driving horses. And then I took over the horse logging business from him, but he was always there at night for me to go see or call up and say, hey, such and such happened today, what do I do about it? Well, if you're a beginner starting out with horses, you can read books all you want, but it's just something about it. It just doesn't do the same as a really firsthand talking to someone that really has been there and knows what they're doing and knows how to communicate with horses. So I guess for you, I really sympathize with you that are starting out, because you really need to find some help. Find somebody close by that's done this, is doing this, and could help you out there. But on my end, and it would also be on your end too, what I do is I continually try different things. Not big things at a time, just little things each day even, or a couple times a day. Just try little things, maybe adjusting on the lines, just different collar, different, adjust the draft on the hames so you have the right draft so they can pull more. Try different bits, different type of work that you have them do. If they're just rambunctious all the time, you need to put a heavier load behind them to calm them down and tire them out. There's no better horse than a tired horse. And so, but those things, and I say tired and a bigger load, how do you know how big of a load to do unless you have something to really show you? You can think you're really working your horse hard, and I might come along and look at what you're doing and say, you're not working that horse hard at all. You need to double the weight that you've got on there to make this work, to calm this horse down. So, I can really sympathize with you if you have no help and no one to mentor that can mentor you. But persevere, and just perseverance, just keep plugging away, trying different things. And even though books will never do it as much as a first-hand thing, books are still good to get some ideas and different things to try.
Books and videos.
If you can find someone that has good videos.
Similar to that, someone said that they're curious for a beginner, what age class should someone look to buy, and also if it is practical to consider such an investment with no experience and no one around your area to help.
Well, that goes back to a lot of what I've already said. I don't want to discourage anyone from starting out, but it is a lot harder if you don't have somebody there to help you that knows what they're doing. And as far as the age thing, there's good young ones and there's good old ones. There's bad young ones and there's bad old ones. I would say generally though, if you were to get a pair in even the 15 to 18-year-old range, that's pretty sensible and fairly well trained. You might be way farther ahead doing that, and then after 4 or 5 years, if you want that young pair, then go get the young pair and start them, or work the young pair. My horses, I think a lot of people think horses are in their prime when they're 4 and 5 years old. I don't. I think they're in their prime and they're 10, 12-year-olds. And I've got horses now that are 14 and 20, and they can outwork most 4-year-olds. I'm telling you, it's just amazing what they can do. So people have a wrong idea as to age with horses. They think they got to go out and their first team has to be that 4-year-old, and because that's what they think is the best. Whereas when you're starting out, pretty good chance that's not the best choice.
You gotta have some of their foolishness out of them when they're a little older.
They get more sensible as they get older, generally.
Like most people. General terms, span of time to train up the colts, or colts in general. But like, how long until you would say that they're fully trained?
I don't think they're ever fully trained. I think things come up. This morning I spread manure, and right at the moment I'm fighting a little bit with Bill. I'm not getting him to walk like I'd like him to walk. So no, I don't think they're ever trained. I think new things come up all the time that you got to deal with. But generally speaking, I don't start my horses till they're 4-year-olds basically. I have started driving my colts, but that's mostly because of this channel I'm doing. I want to show people how you do it, and and I want to do it. I have maybe the time to do it, so I'm doing it. But a lot of my horses aren't touched until they're 3.5 years old, and then they're not really trained until they're 5 or 6 years old to be really good. But some people will always start their colts as 2-year-olds or yearlings, and then they would be trained a lot sooner. But for me, I have work to do with the horses. I'm not training them just to be driving. I'm training them to work, and so their bodies, their legs, they just aren't ready for that type of work. So I wait.
And similar to the other question about the age that's best for a beginner, is there a draft breed that is best for beginners? Like the ease of training, least likely to go lame or fall sick, or overall temperament or availability for purchase. Well, that's probably going to depend on where you are, but... Well,
none of that, but if you're a Belgian man, you're going to say a Belgian. If you're a Bertrand man, you're going to say a Bertrand. If you're a Suffolk man, you're going to say a Suffolk. I like the fact that I have 3 different breeds here, and so that I can show the 3 different breeds, and hopefully show that all the breeds are good. I'm not a one-man just stuck with one breed. So, but there's bad ones in every pack, So.
How do you feel about mules?
Well, I've had mixed thoughts on them, I guess. Brenda would love mules.
I just think they're cool.
I have drove mules before. Years ago, I drove a 4-horse, 4-mule hitch on a sulky plow at a friend of mine's house, and they did really work good. I guess once a horseman, always a horseman. I don't think I'd probably ever own mules, although I'd like to go up to a friend of mine, Mark is his name, not too far from here, that has a pair of mules, and even show a video on it someday here soon. I've been saying that for a couple of years now, but yeah, I guess it'd be tough to make me into a mule man, let's put it that way.
There was a question, I don't see it here, but I'm sure it's somewhere. What's the most amount of horses that you've ever driven?
5 head on plows.
Like straight in a row?
No, I
Two in
think
a
I had 3 in the lead and 2 on the wheel.
Interesting.
So.
Would you ever buy a pair of halflingers to work with?
Um,
And what are halflingers?
okay, halflingers are kind of like half a horse. The size-wise.
Yeah, you better say that.
Yeah. So we're talking about a lot smaller animal, and so for the work I do, probably not. Although there's some great halflingers out there, there's certainly nothing wrong with it. And people that are starting out, that might be a really great option to do, because you might or if you're just having a market garden or just a very, very small farm, that's possibly a perfect choice for you instead of a big full-size draft horse.
And they would be easier to harness and everything.
Yes, way easier.
When you get older, you might want that.
But say more about their half a horse, because
Yeah, are they like ponies? Like they're just small? That's just like how they're breeded to
donkey?
be?
What are they?
Oh no, they're full horse. He just meant smaller.
No, it's a
They're
breed.
just a small
It's
breed.
a breed.
It's just a small
Yeah.
draft horse breed.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they're considered draft horse or draft pony. And generally, a halflinger are really, really easy keepers. They just tend to stay fat all the time.
Kind of like the Suffolks. Seem pretty
From what
easy.
we've seen, yeah. So.
Okay. Are you ever looking for help in the woods? I would sure love, not me, to come around and help and learn how to work a team.
Well, right now, Andy, our Amish neighbor, he's helping out in the woods, so that's big help. With insurance situation and the danger in horse logging, I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't say.
Have you ever had any horses that you just didn't click with?
Probably, I can't think of any right offhand. Yes. I had a Morgan horse that a friend, this was 40 years ago, that a friend of mine brought over wanted me to train him to drive. And that horse, I failed in every way and shape and form. I remember at one point I was running to the next town to catch him because he was gone. So, I would say that would definitely be the one that we never clicked.
I'd like to see you try that horse again today,
I don't want to.
but I think it would go a lot better.
I'm sure it would, but
Have you ever tried a ground-driven cart, and is it much worse than a motorized cart? And what are those things?
I have never used a ground-driven cart. A ground-driven cart is a cart that actually is set up so the wheels as they turn will actually, when in gear, it will actually turn a power takeoff. So, for example, my tedder, you don't need a motor. You just use a ground-powered cart, and it will actually pull along, and as the tires turn, it actually turns the power takeoff. I know that I&J Equipment out of Pennsylvania, they make them, and I'm pretty sure that there's 2 different sizes, more of like a smaller size and a heavier duty size. And but I don't really know anything about them. I've never dealt with them. I know they're expensive, so it's not something I probably will get anytime soon. My motorized cart, I just had made up, ourselves, and it's cheap to run. Unfortunately, you're listening to the motor, but I'm sure there's noise even with the other carts too. Like the mow machine is terribly noisy, and that's all ground driven. So no, I never have, and I can't see it in the near future.
Okay, so this is going to be the last question for today, because we get asked this all the time. What are the commands that you are saying to the horses to make them do what they do?
Okay.
In English.
They are in English.
Okay, I guess I'll go the least questioned one to the most questioned one. When I want to stop a horse, I'll say ho. Even though it may not come out as ho, it may be ho, it may be, I don't know what else I say. But it's ho. If I want to turn to the right, it's G. When I want to turn to the left, it's ha. But when I want to go, years and years and years ago, when I started working horses, I used to do a lot of sleigh rides and such. And I had noticed that people would come on a sleigh ride and you may be needing your team to stand there while people are loading up. And kids will get on and say, get up, get up, get up. And if a horse is trained to move ahead when you're told to get up, of course that would be a disaster if your people are getting on the sleigh and someone says get up and they take off. So I definitely didn't want to say that. So all I've said forever now is when I want them to go, I tell them to step. But I generally want my horses to step carefully, not to bolt out of there, but just to slowly move ahead. So I will say careful step. Now, apparently, according to all the comments, it's not that obvious that that's what I'm saying. I'm saying different language stuff. I'm saying all kinds of different things, apparently. But it's just careful step. And sometimes I do a little bit differently, obviously, but those are the words, yes.
And for backing up.
Yes.
Oh, backing up. I just tell them to back.
Oh, you say
Back.
I just say back with a few variations in it.
And he'll say or step G if he's stepping and turning it, but it kind of is all.
A lot
Who
of
knows what?
trainers, a lot of people that teach people how to drive horses always tell them never say more than one thing at once. I'm always saying way more than one thing at once. How do they know? Just by me consistently saying those things.
Somehow the horses understand it, even though the thousands of people watching have no idea.
And it's interesting. You said that Andy said he doesn't say anything to the horses.
Andy, the Amish guy that's working for me now, when he first started, I told him what I want him to say, just because it's best if we both say the same commands. Mm-hmm. And he actually said he doesn't even tell his horses the G and ha. He just never uses that. I'm thinking he just uses his lines when he wants to turn. But working for me, he's only been here a few days of working. But when I've watched him and he wants them to go to the right, he'll say G just like I asked him to. So he gets along fine. But I can, and he could talk in whatever he says to his horses. They would still respond perfectly fine. But it's just better, and I've taught all the girls these same words just to keep it simpler with all the horses and all the people involved. Okay, we gotta finish this video because my girls are getting silly. So thanks for watching. Working Horses with Jim.
Have a great.
Now we're gonna do Have a Great Day from Working Horses with Jim.
Have a great day from Working Horses with Jim.